you had your own health struggles, and that's kind of what prompted you to start 8Greens. Can you tell us a little bit about like what you were going through?
So essentially when I was 25, I got stage 3 out of stage 4 cancer, which obviously was incredibly dramatic and serious. And, just when you were asking about the health of my childhood, I think people often ask like, what was going on in your life prior to being diagnosed? And I was just like your typical 20 something living in New York. And then I obviously found out I had cancer and everything stopped and changed. And I got a bone infection on a surgery for cancer, which didn't even give me an option to do chemo or radiation. And that really, unbeknownst to me, is when 8Greens started. I truly was just trying to get back on my feet. And so I went on a journey for about 4 years, traveling the world. I mean, I feel like you name a country and I really went there to seek alternative treatments. Ultimately, and this is what I find so fascinating, to end up back in my apartment in New York, going to the basics of nutrition. And I tried everything, and greens were what worked.
Hey, this is Chad Namiro.
And I'm Kelly Namiro. Welcome to the Balancing Chaos podcast,
a lifestyle podcast where we will interview guests about wellness, business, and just about everything in between.
Our goal is to help you develop a lifestyle that promotes health, wholeness, and success. Through our conversations, we hope to inspire you to live a beautiful, full, and joyful life as you navigate balancing the chaos.
We hope you enjoy.
Dawn Russell, welcome to the Balancing Chaos podcast. Today, we are thrilled to have you on as our special guest. Dawn is the founder and CEO of 8Greens, a company that provides easy and convenient ways for people to incorporate more plant-based foods into their diets. Her journey to becoming a successful entrepreneur wasn't an easy one, though. In fact, she had her own health struggles that inspired her to start 8Greens in the first place. Through her work, Dawn is on a mission to help others improve their health and well-being by making the small changes to their diet and lifestyle. My kind of gal. Today, we will be talking with Dawn about her journey, the challenges that she faced along the way, and how she's built a successful business while staying true to her own values. So without further ado, let's jump in.
Welcome.
Thank you. That's quite a good intro. Thanks for having me.
How are things in London town?
Yeah, go for it. Let's start.
You're based out of London?
They're good. Yeah, I live in London and starting to get some sunshine here. It's about time. So yeah, it's good. Thank you.
We're actually coming there in like 5 weeks for like 2 days. We're super excited. It's like one of my favorite places. It's like a cozy town. Everybody is so nice and like you just feel comforted. Why? We're just vacation. For 2 days? Only for 2 days, because we're going also to Sweden and Norway and Paris. So
I had a feeling Paris was going to be in there. Yeah. Okay. Fabulous.
Very excited.
And are you British?
No, I'm American.
Okay.
I mean, I've lived here for 23 years now. But I have completely English sons and my husband's English, but I think I still sound American.
Yeah, you definitely do. I think that's why he asked, right? Because you can kind of tell. So you decided to move there when you got married?
Yeah, I moved here for my husband.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Tell us a little bit about your life in America. Because when I look at you, like you have beautiful glowing skin, like you look like the picture of health. Was it always that way? Or was it a little bit different when you were growing up and when you were a kid? Like, did you eat really healthy?
I'd say I was pretty normal. I mean, I grew up in a city, so we had a lot of like delivery and, but I wouldn't say I was unhealthy or healthy. It was very normal, I mean, I went away to boarding school for high school and I'd say then crazy amounts of junk food and blah, blah, blah. But really I was just like a normal kid growing up.
Where'd you grow up?
I kind of grew up everywhere, but really New York. And then high school was in Massachusetts. And
okay.
That is a lot of delivery. I lived there for like 3 years and it's the takeout capital of the world.
Yeah.
Universe, I think, right?
We mentioned in our intro, after doing a little bit of research about you, that you had your own health struggles. And that's kind of what prompted you to start 8Greens. Can you tell us a little bit about like what you were going through and how you knew that like adding greens or adding, changing your diet somehow would help that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was completely by accident. So essentially, when I was 25, I got stage 3 out of stage 4 cancer, which obviously was incredibly dramatic and serious. And just when you were asking about the health of my childhood, I think people often ask like, what was going on in your life prior to being diagnosed? And I was just like your typical 20-something living in New York. I didn't really abuse drugs or alcohol, or I was just normal. Like I'd go out on Friday and Saturday, but I mean, it was a really normal life. And then I obviously found out I had cancer, and everything stopped and changed. And I got a bone infection on a surgery for cancer, which stopped, which didn't even give me an option to do chemo or radiation. And that really, unbeknownst to me, is when 8 Greens started. I truly was just trying to get back on my feet. And so I went on a journey for about 4 years, traveling the world. I mean, I feel like you name a country and I really went there to seek alternative treatments. Ultimately, and this is what I find so fascinating, to end up back in my apartment in New York, going to the basics of nutrition. And I tried everything, and greens were what worked. So once I got back on my feet, I really made a commitment of how can I help people get greens in an easy way? And they're not easy. They smell, they're expensive, they're intimidating to cook because they shrink, and they, it's just, and forget it with kids. Like I get the bad rap that greens get, but I also learned firsthand how important they are. I mean, they literally brought me back to health, my hair, my skin, my eyesight, my hearing, everything. It was so profound that I dedicated 5 years to really working with these 8 greens in particular and creating something that would taste good and be easy. I had absolutely no business in mind. Like it was just purely, I want to create this, if nothing else, for my friends and family.
Wow. I feel like that's how all the best businesses start. It's like making your message and helping other people based on what you're going through. So tell us what exactly, for our listeners who don't know, what exactly are the 8 greens?
I should have them all memorized. I have them here. It's spinach, aloe vera, wheatgrass, kale, blue-green algae, spirulina, chlorella, and barley grass. And I don't expect everyone to know them. I mean, blue-green algae is really the one I'm most passionate about. It's the only green that is in no way man manipulated. It's just an algae that you get out of a pond, over 90% in Oregon, I was going to say in America, obviously in America. So those 8 greens. And then really for me were, how do we layer them both in the tablet and the gummies to make them taste good? That was vital to me, because really you can create anything in a second with these 8 greens, but can it taste good without loads of sugar and extra crap that you don't want?
Right. Because when we think about sugar, in some of the research, and what you went through, that's part of what causes cancer cells to multiply. And so creating something that's low in sugar is absolutely important. And so for somebody, whether they're going through what you went through or not, when we think about adding more greens to our diets, whether that is in the product or in your food, what benefits do you think that people can expect to see, or have you seen in all of the, many people who consume your product?
For me, greens really touch upon everything. They're amazing for immunity. They have all the vitamin Bs. So you've got a lot of the energy helping. I think that's why my skin is so good. I really do nothing else. So it has to be, it's the only thing I do.
Anyone who's not watching video, her skin is insane.
Thank you. But it's the same with hair, nails. My kids' nails and hair grow so fast, and all the moms at school are like, what do you do? And I'm like, they're eating my gummies, greens can really do no wrong. They can absolutely only help no matter what you're going through.
I love that.
Because I'm just very interested in this. And people like Steve Jobs have tried, much more Eastern methodologies when they face something like cancer. You felt that diet pretty much alone, it sounds like there probably were other things, I'm sure, but you felt like that was a major contributor to being cancer free.
Even today, I attribute so much of my health to these greens, just to help with circulation and lymph node and detoxing. And, it really, it's really on many levels has helped me.
That's incredible. And do you feel like, obviously you've synthesized the greens into tablet form, gummy form, that it can be not easily replicated, but replicated outside of its truest form, its raw material? Or tell us about
No.
the process, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it's easy at all. And I'm not saying that because it wasn't easy for me. So it took me 5 years to create the first product, our tablet, because in this are 8 real greens. And so to have 8 real, like the greens, not the extract or the concentrate of, or, you know, the actual real greens from the farm, dehydrated, and then put into this tablet. And the key that we were just saying is no sugar. I could have probably done it in 2 months if I had just thrown in the apple juice or the 27 grams of sugar. But then, as we were just saying, you're giving a whole nother issue to the consumer. So it took me 5 years and 265 prototypes to really create those 8 greens layered in that tablet with no sugar and to taste good. I feel like keeping it simple was the most difficult challenge for me because there's no preservatives, no, you know, there's just no, it's gluten-free, non-GMO, and that's all about those aspects, you know, add that extra layer of difficulty, but it's really what matters. It's truly what matters.
Incredible.
And for the consumer, is it still like, let's say you're talking about like, I don't know, like eating spinach, or like, again, like it's not going to be as enticing as like putting the tablet into your water, because you can probably get that down easier, but is it still as bioavailable and like in terms of like helping whatever, you know, inflammation, detoxification, all those things?
Absolutely. I always want to tell people like eating the real greens is my goal. You know, that's the whole mission I'm on, is for people to get more real greens. So have the spinach, have the salad, have whatever you can. I'm almost just trying to give that real life solution. So if you can, you know, make it for dinner and have the salad for lunch, please do. Green. I mean, I am like the biggest promoter of greens, but it's just so unrealistic most of the time that I was just giving a vehicle to get it. I mean, I definitely want people to know they should be having their, you know, greens on the side as well.
I coach clients in terms of their diet and lifestyle, and I almost feel like the most sustainable way to start to do things for your health is to take these small steps. And it's almost like that acts as a small step, like in the right direction of like, okay, now I'm going to do my greens, and then I'm going to like, then that will, you know, serve as like the next step. Then maybe I'll start eating salads from, because a lot of people are starting at like, I don't get any greens at all. And so it's a great jumping point.
That was like the basis of my question.
Yeah.
I have like a level of concern these days, especially in the US, that, and there's all kinds of advertisements. People think they can like take like 2 tablets of greens and vegetables and like they're good, right? So I'm glad you said that. You know, this is more of a supplement in addition to a, you know, plant-based diet, however you think about that. So yeah, that was good clarification. I appreciate it.
I am genuinely trying to give just one solution, because I feel like there, you know, we all know wellness is like the most current fad of the moment. You know, it's like an it thing going on. Yeah. And
Yep.
kind of like, when did health not be a fad? Like, it's always been, you know, the most important thing. It's such an inundated, oversaturated market right now that I'm just trying to keep it like really simple. You know what I mean? Yes. And like I'm saying, like the stepping stone, like then you feel confident. So, oh, I might go try this, or I might go to the gym because I have more energy, or whatever it is. It's just that simple. Like, I'm just trying to give one simple thing for your day. Like, nothing's going to change your whole life. Like nothing in the world. Well, so it's, let's be realistic. That's really what my genesis was.
Yeah. It's setting the baseline. Do you feel, I imagine Athletic Greens and a few of these other ones are your chief competitors, maybe I'm off there. Do you feel like a lot of those other products in the market are you know, sustainable and well sourced and quality products? Or
based on like what you said, like yours is really just the greens. And so that's one thing that I like to make sure people are aware of too, is that like a lot of other products are like filled with these fillers and like,
I ordered Athletic Greens and she was shitting on it. So I'll just be very transparent about it, because they have great marketing. But
incredible marketing. Yeah. And I really feel like, you know, in terms of like competitors, and you sent a list of questions and they were so good, because really I feel like the product always wins. You know, I don't care how much marketing you do. I don't care, like the efficacy of the product at the end of the day. And I know how superior our efficacy is, just because I truly gave like my soul to this. And as you were saying, like all good companies start from kind of that, I wasn't trying to create a company, because you care then, you know, you take time for that extra passion. So, I mean, my kids inhale this every day. Like, I don't know you're drinking it. Like, I take that so seriously. Like, people I don't even know are consuming it. Right. So that is when you have to really put that 200% into the efficacy. And then at the end of the day, that's what will
Yeah.
prevail.
The world needs more people like you. That's great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, thanks. I mean, what also, just in terms of America, what I was really surprised when I launched, 6 years ago, I went and sought out the FDA to help me with everything, because I was like, I am, as I just said, am putting this into a stranger's kid's mouth. Like, could you have more responsibility? So I have an FDA literally every single step of my way is holding my hand. And I think everyone should be doing that, but at least I know we are.
Mhm.
I want to provide some clarity on that, what you just said too, Dawn, because I think it's important for our listeners to know. And I talk about this on my Instagram a lot, but like a lot of supplements most supplements aren't regulated at all by the FDA, because it's not mandated by the government. And so the fact that you took
of other things.
the fact that you took that extra step, again, shows your commitment to your consumers, because all of that stuff is time, energy, money, on your end. And so it's like, I say the same thing about like for other supplement companies, like third-party testing and all of this stuff, because most companies don't do that. And there's a reason why certain products cost more money. And it's usually because they're taking those extra steps to make sure the end consumer is getting the real deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so true. And you feel bad, I wish we could make ours even cheaper and cheaper, but you just can't. If you're going to get real greens, the real spinach or the real blue-green algae. So I appreciate you saying that.
So one of the things that is really important to my husband, and I noticed was also really important to you, is this commitment to sustainability and reducing waste. Can you talk about some of the ways that 8 Greens is working to do that and to come from a more sustainable way? And how has that impacted also your business?
So my husband as well is, he's very into that. It's his profession, not only his personal passion. For me, the very first thing was that, there are 10 tablets in this, so you do not have 10 plastic bottles of water. And that was so important to me, because if you go and you're getting, this in a smoothie, or, you're going to use plastic. So for us, it was a really big deal that it wasn't plastic. Obviously, I can say the gummy jar is all, what you call a post resin, where it's, you obviously 100% recyclable. Everything we have is recyclable. And most importantly, I know like every single thing about where our greens come from, the farms, the manufacturer, that level, you can keep the cleanest line possible throughout. As you were saying, it might cost more, but in the end, so for me, yes, the plastic is huge, but you can also do it through the manufacturing process.
Are all the sources US based? For all the
I know you're gonna ask that.
Yeah.
I say it lightly, and it's killed us to be able to say to that. So
it's really hard, very, very challenging. That's amazing.
So 6 years ago, that was when you launched, and you spent 5 years developing the project or product. So you've had basically 11 years working on this and dedicating your life to this. Can you talk to us a little bit about what some of your challenges along the way were? And for somebody who is working on starting their own business, more specifically, a product line, what are things that people might want to know?
Well, the first thing is what you said to me right when I was telling you that I accidentally started this business. I feel like if someone has that level of passion and that almost soul need to create whatever they're creating, and even if 5 people drink it or take it or wear it or whatever it is, people can feel that somehow translates in the product. I really believe I don't care what the person's creating, if it comes from that passion, that deep gut level where you're I have to do this, that is the number one thing. And then the number 2 I would say is you are going to have all the business crap of, like you were saying, Tyler, the supply chain issues and the competition and the this and the that, and is, this employee happy and this employee wants that, all the stuff that comes along with it, where you're I just wanted to get greens into the world. For me, it has been such a process of just paring it down, keeping it straight, keeping it really simple. and just making it like, I know my goal at the end of the day. Like that is pure and simple to get more greens to people. And if they want to go buy something else, if they want to do that, that's all their prerogative. I'm just going to stay on my path and know that like I can sleep at night because I've done it. And then the last thing I really feel like is especially now with, as I was just saying, the whole wellness industry being so oversaturated, the consumer needs to trust their gut as much as us who are creating it. Like if you're looking at something and you feel like that doesn't feel right, it's not right. Like you always know,
Totally. And I think that like the fact that you said that again speaks so highly to your confidence in your product, because there are those people who will see an Instagram ad. I mean, I even have clients who will message me and they're like, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And I'm like, what do you think about that product that is being advertised to you on Instagram?
Consumers never been more educated than they are now, though, to be fair.
For sure. But like, I think that a lot of people have a hard time
100%.
trusting their intuition. And the fact that she says that, like,
we had someone on a couple of weeks ago and they were like, most baby seats have like flame retardants in them and tons of chemicals that you don't necessarily want in your kids. I was like, wow. I mean, it's everywhere. Like,
right.
It's impossible to keep up with it all. But yeah,
it is. I feel like you're right when you're saying like we've never been more educated. We've also never been more like manipulated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
By the whole social media, blah, blah, blah. So I feel like that's where it really comes down to like that gut level.
What advice do you have? Because so many people struggle with like, the 0 to 1 phase. A lot of people have great ideas, but actually implementing them, and you had, I think you said 265 or so iterations, right?
Oh, and like, I mean, I could tell you the most, like, I look back on it and I almost cringe. Like I was so focused on getting it right. I would just cold call people and just like, I was just like ruthless because I just really wanted to do it. And I'm like, oh my God, I lost my mind there for a little bit because you just have to keep at it, and like, no one cares as much as you. So manufacturer, like prototype 100 was like, come on, we're good. And I'm like, no, so, I mean, for me, is it just, if they just remain strong in whatever it is they're pursuing, it always prevails. It does. Like when I was sick, when I was this, when I was that, like I was told not to have kids. I've got 2 boys. Like if you just literally push as hard as you can through it, you will.
I think that that's the problem, is that so many people, like they fail once and it's like, oh, well, I guess I'm just going to give up. But it's like the people who are successful are the people who look at that one failure and they're like, no, this is a learning lesson. Okay, what can I do next? And what can I
have to pursue your passions. If you don't really care about it, you won't be able to drive through all the challenging times that are inevitable, right? Yeah. Like this is so deep to your ethos, clearly, that you were able to push through all those speed bumps.
But I think the other thing that I really want to make sure that your viewer knows is, from the outside, like I remember how many months ago, I've like totally lost track of time. I know you have a kid, so you can remember, like the brain's like, what? But recently in this year, there was 1 week where I did the Today Show and the Drew Show and everyone was like, And I'm like, sweetheart, do you know that was like a year in the making? Like people just see that amazing end moment, and they're like, oh, great. Like, or like, oh my God, you're in Target and you're nailing it. I'm like, do you know what that took? So I want people to know when they see that end result, like grit and the hours of sweat behind it. And I don't want it for any accolade myself. I want it for them. So they know like, okay, like I can do this, like just keep pushing.
If you're willing to put in the effort, like there's no way that whatever it is that you're working on isn't going to become a success because you're continually learning from your own challenges. So I love that you shared that. Now, what you just said about the, being in Target or like creating another new like, how do you stay ahead of the competition? And what is like your innovation whole process like? Like, is there a whole team with you or are you doing a lot of the work on I mean, I know you're the CEO, like you probably have so many things on your plate. How deeply are you involved in that?
Well, so I was going to correct you because I have the most amazing CEO now of like so I want to absolutely give her full credit because she's amazing. But I mean, that in itself, it might be answering a different question, but like I know my strengths and I totally know my weaknesses. I mean, this is going to sound like what, but I'm not a good businesswoman. I'm really good. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm really good at creating a product. I'm really good at talking greens with you, but like spreadsheets and Excel and manufacturing, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I'm an incredible CEO because she's an incredible CEO. She's an incredible team leader, you know, she can manage people well. I hate to like, you know, give any advice to someone that doesn't want it, but like, I knew that was my weakness. So I had to go find it in someone else. And that's really been, you know, yeah. And so I want to give full credit to her. She fully deserves it.
I love that.
And I don't think I really have tried to not look at the competition because I feel like I'm bragging and I'm not trying to, but when we created the world's first Real Greens effervescent tablet gummies, and we still are, someday someone's going to create it as well. You know, it's inevitable. It's life. But I know, like, I've given my heart and soul to this. So whatever they do, it actually is just giving people more options. And as I was saying, I hope they're smart enough to know, like, you know, an extract is not like the Real Green. You have zero of the phytonutrients that you need. I just keep on my path. But interestingly, I feel like a lot of people do know that. So like when I met with Target, they totally knew, you know, oh, you're Real Green, so XYZ, like they've done their homework. And so for me, it's just a matter of slowly building. The company has grown very like systematically and slowly because I wanted to do it well, is the bottom line.
Absolutely. I love that. I think that slow, consistent growth is so much better than that like fast. And then it's like, what happens after that? So
exactly. And how do you maintain it? And yeah.
Scaling. I mean, every business has scaling issues, multiple along their journey. But a lot of what you said resonated because you have to understand your own weaknesses. That's so critical, right? And your own strengths, because you need to know how to hire around them. You need to know who to surround yourself with, and then you always should aim to hire people smarter than you.
100%.
Right?
It's like the number one thing. If you do that, you'll be in a better situation than.
I mean, I'm the same as you. Like when I think about the full-time that I hired this year, 2 full-times, I am horrible at Excels and spreadsheets and all of that too. And so I hired a business manager and she does all of that for me. And I'm like, great, like I don't want to think about this.
Exactly. Like, because you know you're good at interacting with people and, you know, your knowledge base and this and that. It's just so important. The other thing that I think is really, it was actually advice that came from my husband when we launched, it kind of exploded and it sold out in 3 days. And he said, Dawn, you're going to have to say a lot of no's because you're going to land flat on your face if you don't just keep saying no and do the steady growth. And as painful as a few no's were, I just had to, because you know, it's why we're here today, because I said those few no's. We would have just spiked and then, you know, fallen off the edge basically.
So speaking of that, like, again, like you have 2 kids, you know, you're starting this business that's grown like incredibly well. What, like, were there boundaries that you had to put in place, like to keep that family time a priority? And like in the beginning, because now you have a CEO, like you have probably a good amount of people there, like supporting the business, but like in the beginning, what did that look like? Because I think that what a lot of people struggle with and what a lot of our listeners want to know about is like how to maintain that work-life balance, especially when your job almost feels like a third baby.
Totally. No, well said. Totally. I really made a decision because I wanted to be a mom. Like, first of all, my whole life, motherhood was super important to me. And as I said, I fought so hard to have my kids that was a huge priority to me. So I really had to kind of sit down with myself and be like, okay, I'm never going to let that drop. And now this company, it's a huge moment. It's a huge opportunity. And I should have my marriage in that circle, but I have a really solid marriage. So I kind of like take it for granted, which is horrible. I shouldn't. But for me, it was like, okay, I have this family and I've got 8 Greens. I've totally had to let like social life go and, you know, being at this and that and da 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 da, because I want to drop my kid off at school every day. I want to know like what homework he has at night. And it's just, so I live in London, our company's based in New York, and being from New York, I go there and people think I like go out to dinner or this. No, I go to bed so I can stay on London time zone. So when I get home, I can go do that pickup and da da da. So there's just a lot of sacrifices, but I also know this is a finite amount of time. I mean, with 2 kids, like it's so finite that it's like, okay, I've got this work opportunity and I've got my family. And yeah, I'm sure I've pissed off a lot of friends, but if they're friends, they'll be there at the end, I hope.
I love that.
It's a very real and honest way to put it. That is
Totally. I love that. And I think that when you think about like what your true priorities are for you and for me, like my career and then my marriage and my kids, like those 2 things, it's like there's not enough hours in the day to then have this incredible social life and like be going out to these, like you have to remember what your values and priorities are.
You can't even have that many friends. I always say that. So you can have like 5 friends. It's really like 3 though, that like you're engaging with and seeing, somewhat often. I mean, that's kind of the reality. I'm sure it's different for some, but
Yeah. I mean, I think even 3 is a stretch. If you think of like who really knows you, that like knows you, it's just, And of course, sometimes it, sucks when you're like, oh, you haven't been invited to, this weekend getaway or this party or whatever, but like, there's probably a million more,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So I love that advice. And in that, like, I think that a big reason that a lot of people feel like health issues come on and symptoms come on, like brain fog, fatigue, even like digestive issues, like a lot of it roots back to the fact that we're completely overwhelmed, especially, I mean, I don't know like the culture in London as much as I do in America. I don't know how like similar it is in terms of people being burnt out, but like, here it's like you grew up here, like people are go, go, go nonstop and like, don't say no to many things.
She grew up in New York, so she gets it.
Yeah, I know. And so what do you, like, if you could give like advice to people who are going through or dealing with health symptoms, whatever they might be, again, like digestive issues, exhaustion, bloating, the myriad of things that you always hear. Like, what advice would you give them? Do they focus first on their plate? Do they focus first on their lifestyle? Like, where should the energy and attention go?
Well, I'm going to totally sound like Oprah, which is like slightly ridiculous and silly, but to me, anytime, because I even have it now, like if you're having any of the symptoms you have, that's like your whisper. And that's my Oprah moment. Okay. Yes. But like your whisper that like, you got to do something. So for me, there's 2 things I do. 1, I do meditate a lot. And 2, you said your plate. So if you like, it's so unrealistic to be like, okay, don't have a glass of wine for 3 months. I mean, who's not going to do that? It's just like stuff like that is so unrealistic. So it's like, okay, let's focus on your plate, but be realistic about your life, but then focus on your plate. But for me, getting quiet and meditating, like wherever, however you can do it. I did it on a plane Saturday, however it works. I feel like if you stop and get quiet, like you'll figure out yourself what it is. It's a matter of, because I think our American culture, which I am so a part of, it's like go, 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 go. And if we don't actually force ourselves to stop, that go, go, go actually starts to break down. You'll get business problems, you'll get relationship problems, like what, you know what I mean? It'll just start to like, if you don't honor that first moment, it just kind of, and then it really hits. So
it's almost like if you create the space, then you have more time to focus on what's on your plate and all of that. And so the meditation piece, I think, is so important because so many people are not self-aware. That's the best way that I can put it. And so when we know more about like, oh, this is a sign from my body telling me this, or like I can, put my phone down and my emails down at lunch so that I can eat in a more mindful way. So I don't have the bloating, but it's like, until you have awareness around the fact that like you're rushing through your meals and that you're not like being mindful at all about what's going into your mouth. It's like, you can't make the change.
I remember a time in my life when springtime would hit and immediately
I would be searching for a new trainer or Googling all of the 7-day juice cleanse, 14-day detoxes so that I could get myself in shape for summer. And what I didn't realize at this time was that all of that was a complete waste of my time, of my energy, of my resources. And I look back on that just wishing for those hours and all of that energy and brain power back. The decisions that I was making for my body were coming from a place of punishment rather than from a place of love. And it wasn't until I started meditating and I started doing the work, the real work on myself, that I recognized that I needed to nourish my body with both movement and food and mindset work if I ever wanted my body to love me back in a sustainable way. And that's why the WBK membership, that I release meditations where I deeply connect you with yourself, and blood sugar balancing recipes to nourish you on a cellular level, and low impact movement to support the delicate balance of your hormones, really gets you the results that you're looking for, where it starts to become a lifestyle. It starts to become who you are. I can tell you firsthand that both myself and my members, my private clients, all of us have seen the most incredible results from the WBK method. It's so different than your typical diet and a restrictive approach that we're taught from diet culture from a very early age. As a 33-year-old mom of 2, this is the leanest I've ever been, the most energy that I've ever had, and the best that I have ever felt in my freaking body. And it can be that way for you too. So right now, with the code Balancing Chaos, all one word, BALANCINGCHAOS, you can get 10% off your annual membership for the WBK method and get new weekly content, plus a library of hundreds of workouts, recipes, meditations, with a 7-day reset and a 30-day challenge, all to get you started. So use the code Balancing Chaos, again, all one word, to start your 7-day free trial and see, when you love your body back, how your body starts to love you.
Talk to us a little bit about how you got into a meditation practice. And
I actually want to share with you this story because it happened so long ago. It was like right when I moved to London. So, people think of meditation. I feel like half of them think of like a monk sitting, with a shaved head in a monastery, like the complete extreme. And you're like, yeah, right. Never, like, hello. Or, it's just, there's so many different unrealistic versions. And I went to this country house with my now husband, and there was this big old grouchy Englishman. He's like, what the hell are you? You're like all into this integrative medicine. And, he thought I was absolutely bat mad. And compared to where he and I were, we were in 2 different galaxies. And then at the end of the weekend, I was like, hey, you know what? You love walking your dogs, don't you? And he's like, oh, it's my favorite time of day, rain, shine, I don't care. That's meditation. So I feel like people have this whole thing that you have to sit and you have to this and you have to that. And it's like, it's just not realistic. Like when I drive my home son from school, he likes to be quiet. That's actually his meditation. He's just had a long day with like 8,000 kids coming at him and like he's just chilling. And that actually is a now 9-year-old's meditation. So for me, I don't want to preach and be like, meditate. It's just that like moment to be with yourself.
yes.
Yeah. We've had 50 plus episodes and we asked about meditation a lot. I don't know if we've heard the same answer twice. Everyone has their own version.
Take about it. Yeah. I love it. And
That's how it should be. It needs to be authentic to yourself.
It absolutely does need to be authentic to yourself, because that's the only way you're going to be consistent with it. And I think that just finding a way, again, to like connect with yourself, because of what we talked about at the beginning of the episode, all that noise coming at you, like through social media, it's like, what feels right to me today, and what are my needs today, and how can I honor those things? And we can't do that if we wake up and the first thing we look at is somebody else's life and what they're doing. Like, we just can't.
It's heartbreaking, actually, because we all know it's so false. And how do you teach the younger, our younger kids that? And I really think it's a parent responsibility at this,
for sure.
This time period in the world, to really teach our kid how filtered it is, how this, how that.
Right. If you were going to give somebody
you have to I'm one of these people. You have to have a plan. I almost have to have it in my calendar.
I do
This
too.
morning I woke up. I'm trying to introduce a new regimen at the moment. And
It got a little messed up with the move, but
yeah, but no,
And
I'm
for
just
your-
trying to be more consistent. Yeah,
Yeah.
time for myself. You know what it is. You have kids, so it's like
you have to get up at
there
6.
is no time for yourself except in the early morning, or at least for me. I don't know if that's true for everyone. And so I'm like, okay, I can get an extra hour of sleep, or I can wake up, and I love sleep. I can be a little more tired than I potentially like to be for 5 minutes, and then I actually get the time to myself. And yeah, you just got to do it.
Is
Or I have
there,
to do it at least.
like, for anyone who's starting a practice, is there anything that, like, again, we all know it has to be like something that's true to you, but is there anything you would recommend or like advice you would give your younger self when you were starting that?
I feel like now everyone wants to have like these big gestures, like I'm going to start this practice, like this big thing. And it's like, just start with like 30 seconds, just start so simple, or start with like 10 breath exercises, breathing in and out 10 times. Like, what does that take you? 10 seconds, start so simple, because that's the one downside to this whole, wellness trend. Everything seems so big and so intimidating and so like overwhelming. Where's like just that simple little start? Because then it's, as you were saying as well, you build upon a little start, but just that little start.
I love
Yeah,
that.
it's overwhelming.
There's so many things that like everybody tells you. What he said, like
cold plunge. You gotta get a
wellness is like hot right now.
it's huge. It's,
So tell us a little bit about, again, we kind of touched on this, but I want you to expand upon the idea, because everybody is really busy right now. And, not everybody owns a juicer. And so talk a little bit about the importance of convenience to your consumers, and kind of like what do you guys see is in terms of feedback, like that, like people love about how accessible and easy 8 Greens is?
So I appreciate you asking that question, because my number one goal was convenience.
Yeah.
Well, convenience and taste. And I wasn't even going to start anything unless it was convenience and taste. And,
That's the thing.
I feel like I'm bragging, which I so don't mean to, but like when we launched in Nordstrom, we started their wellness department, and we were the first in a lot of places because we were so long ago. We were the first. I become English. I can't say anything like too self-confident. In England, you like apologize for breathing. So we were, it's like ridiculous. So because we were, now I lost my train of thought, because we were the first everywhere we would go. I would always say the number one thing is convenience and taste. Like, how do you want to advertise? How do you want this? How do you want that? And I'm like, convenience and taste, because someone might try it. Someone might do it a week if they're feeling really crappy, but no one's going to make it a daily routine unless it's convenient and it tastes good. And so for me, it's, even while I feel like so many people are just making products and putting it out, before I made the product, before you make the product, you find the problem. And the problem is it's not convenient and it doesn't taste good. So once I had those two problems, I knew that's what I had to solve. And for me, the real testament to it is when we went mass to Target, and, I don't know if Whole Foods is considered mass, like more Target.
Yes.
We've been in it's Whole Foods mass. Okay.
Yes.
Big box for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, you can't go mass unless it's convenient and tastes good, or you launch and, you're dead in there in 6 months. And I feel like there are just a bazillion health gurus out there, but if you don't, and I love that you're saying it, like you get it. If it's not convenient and if it doesn't taste good, whatever it is, no one's going to do it.
100%.
This is a bit of a tangent, but I wanted to ask it earlier. There's so many mediums now. There's the dehydrated version, there's juicing, there's sauteing, which you hear like, oh, if it's too high heat, it's not good for you. And if it has olive oil, it's not good for you at that heat. All these, it's confusing to suss out like when the greens are the most bioavailable, whatever the best for you is what I'm getting at. What versions aren't good for you, just out of curiosity, in terms of like preparing those greens and eating them?
Well, I hate to sound like probably the 8 million people that have said this to you, but heat is really the killer, know?
Yeah.
And kind of like, great, well, now I'm gonna eat like a raw kale leaf. Like, it's such a bummer of an answer, but it's the truth. The heat just like, it's like, just takes it out.
So, but dehydrating it they're still the same.
Dehydrating is no heat. You're just taking the water out. And so
Right.
that was just, we weren't going to like, that's the only way we're going to do it. Like
Okay.
the only way we have done it and we'll do it. Cause taking the water out, you're keeping the nutrients and that, I mean, that's critical.
Right.
So you
That's what
want
the
it in
whole-
its raw
whole
form,
issue.
basically.
Exactly. And not being the extract. I mean, someone once asked my husband, they're like, what's an extract? What's the concentrate? He's like, think fresh squeezed orange juice versus frozen. And it's totally, like you want that fresh green and that's what you're getting.
Mhm.
Right.
What about juicing when you're separating the fiber and the pulp, if you will, and extracting?
You're still getting all the nutrients.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like you're not getting the fiber as you would if you put it into like a smoothie. Just like
Do they go hand in hand? Or are they okay separately? Is juicing good for you?
yeah, I would say so, right?
What would
You
Don
see,
say?
I
And the
want to
whole-
hear what Dawn says.
No. You guys, please talk. You're totally right. With the juicing is really important. The only thing that I do warn, and I'm sure you do this with your customers, is your clients, is see how much sugar's in it through the apple juice. You
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
it's 27 grams. They're like, it's no sugar, but then they've added an apple, plus apple juice. And so it's 27 grams of sugar. You're like, buddy, 27 grams of sugar. Like that's what you have to really watch.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of that, Dawn, just like these are like quick fire questions, but like how much sugar should an average person be having a day, if any?
As little as possible, which is good luck. I mean, it's
It's
just,
everything. has
Even
sugar.
fruit sugar?
I'd love to not, but I mean, I'm a huge believer in stevia because it's from a natural plant, but I know people agree, disagree. It's so controversial, stevia. A lot of people want the monkfish. I am a believer in stevia. That's because I like the plant-based.
I have literally been on either like stevia or monk fruit train for the last like 5 years now, because before that, the only option was like Splenda. And I was like,
Hate
oh,
Stevia.
like
So trash.
can't do it. But like,
no.
if you can have a natural replacement that comes from a plant that has zero impact on your blood sugar, like, let's go. I love it. I love that answer.
But so
Diabetics can use stevia and
Yeah.
the monk fruit. Yeah, it's huge. It's really good.
So I had an apple and an orange this morning. In your opinion, would that be too much sugar?
Oh God, no.
Okay.
I'm so realistic though. I mean, if you had said like a bowl of, I don't know what's the number, Fruit Loops, I would have been
No.
pretty, no, you're obviously healthy. I mean, so I'm just trying to be really realistic. A donut, I'm like, ooh, maybe not,
Okay.
like, let's just, I feel like people are so hard on themselves now. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
for example, it's an apple. Like
Yeah.
it's,
It's true.
come on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just,
I just don't know how to suss out. Some people are like, fruit sugar is totally fine. Eat as much as you want. Others are, sugar. I'm confused. as a
I
consumer.
honestly am of the belief that like you want to keep the glycemic index relatively lower. I love fruit. And I think that like having that as your source of sugar rather than having like a bag of Sour
Of
Patch
course.
Kids, like that. Most people are not on the camp of like eating real whole food. So that was going to be my next question to you, Don. What is a day in the life of you, like food wise, look like? And how different is that from now before you had cancer?
So I guess maybe just growing up in New York, I always skipped breakfast, which was horrible, And so now I always have a brand cereal. And to me, the cereal is not important. I mean, not Fruit Loops, but like a good cereal, what I put on top of it. So I do a lot of flaxseed. I do a lot of probiotics. The stuff that I sprinkle in the cereal is what helps me a lot. And then I do a lot of bananas, but listen, any fruit on top's great. Blueberries, like you can't go wrong, So I would do that. And then, but I'll always have an 8 greens when I first wake up. And I'm not saying that to promote 8 greens. I need, even before 8 greens, I would have a green smoothie when I woke up. Like I need that first thing to just get the energy going.
I was
And
going to
then-
say, does that help you in terms of energy? Like, do you feel like that's like your coffee?
It's my coffee. Totally. It is. Yeah. And I just did like 2 crazy back-to-back trips to America where I was like in and out in 17 hours. I was on my knees and it was just like, I was gulping 8 greens because I needed not only the hydration, but the energy from the greens. And then for lunch, I'm a huge soup girl. I really love soups. Like I'll do it in a mug. Isn't it great? There's something so cozy about it. And then, but I love like, you know, salmon on a sandwich with my kids. Like I'm really realistic. Like I eat my bread, like it's just normal, you know, like I'm not this like die hard. And then evening, I shouldn't, but because family dinner to me is like so important that's my biggest meal. And I know it should be lunch, but my kids are, you know, it's just, I don't see my husband during the day. So it's like, we all sit down and we'll have a big meal. And like tonight we're having apple pie. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like we have a big proper meal. And then, you know, I know tomorrow morning that I'll be sneaking all this stuff in their food. And, you know, it's kind of that yin and yang. Cause like I sneak a lot of stuff in my kids' food as well. Like the probiotics, the flax seeds, the licorice root drops, because they're going to eat crap at school. Forget it. Right.
Right. Totally.
I need to learn to live with that.
Their
kids are going to eat like crap. I really try to control it, but it's just.
Oh my God. How old are your kids now?
3 and 1.
Okay. Cause I didn't know you had the one. Okay, so the 3 are okay. So first of all, you guys are so deep. I'm so impressed you're even sitting here talking to me. At 3 and 1, you're like, what's my name? Like, oh my God. Stuff. When my kids were well, mine are 3 years apart, so I would have just had my second one. I was totally thinking that they're gonna just have this amazing diet. Yeah. Now, I mean, they have pizza, Five Guys. Like, come on. Like it's just
it's the way it is.
But it's like if you can control the other little bit, like, you know, last night my son had salmon and broccoli, like that. But before at brunch, he had a waffle and ice cream. And so it's like, it's balanced.
Totally. But it's so, yeah. And I mean, by the way, in America, I mean, when I go back to America, people look at me and they're like, oh my God, you're giving your kid, like if we go to LA, you're giving your kids In and Out. I'm like, hell yeah, I want normal kids, you know? Yeah. I'm just humans that are fulfilled and like ticking in life. Like, come on.
We have this conversation a lot because he is a product of like parents who, and they're the best, they're the coolest people, but like,
they don't need the precursors,
but like a very like restricted diet. Yeah, totally. And then he went to college and it was like Taco Bell, like, you know, pizza, like all the things all the time. Whereas like, I'm more of the mindset that like, if you do kind of give them some of those things, you know, and that you keep things in your house, it's like they want it less because it's available whenever. So it's not restricted.
So true. We had Five Guys. You guys know Five Guys?
Yeah.
You know, we had Five Guys at my so when my son turned 9, and it was so interesting because the one boy that had never had it, literally, like he'd never had any crap food, was like going around eating all the kids' milkshakes, and I'm like, this is the result of too healthy.
Yep. Yep. 100%.
I'm sure we'll get like 1,000 write-ins being like, rah, 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 but it's just reality, you know?
It totally is. And it's like, again, like just to wrap this conversation in a bow, it's like, it's not healthy if it's not balanced. Like, it's just not. Like, you can't have this like all or nothing mindset around it because that's when it starts to get really ugly. So talk to us about, are there any new products, any new initiatives, any new things that 8 Greens is doing that our audience should know about?
So we're going to continually be doing new flavors. So we just launched peach the end of last year, and it's like quickly become our number one, actually. I think the lemon lime might still be our number one, which was the very first one I launched. So we're doing new flavors, and really it's just going more mass. Because when I'm sure you guys did your research, like we were Sephora, we were, you know, Bergdorf, Neiman, like we were my whole goal is to do mass, to get greens into everyone. So we're not going to do an enormous amount of innovation for a little while and just really focus on getting it out. You know, we have the lollipops and the gummies have just been so successful. So it's just, you know, carrying on more of that. I mean, we're working on we have a few things up our sleeves for sure, but we're never going to be a company that has like 100 SKUs. And the other thing I really just personally learned watching other companies fail, like if you're good at something, it doesn't mean you all of a sudden have to go create something else. Stick with what you're good at.
100%.
Right?
Totally. I love that.
Someone told me that about investing the other day. If you're really good at real estate, invest in real estate. You can diversify a little bit, but like go with what you know and what you're good at.
Yeah.
Good point.
So true. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's actually with investing is very true.
Yeah.
Is there any channels you're focusing on? I mean, it's a blend of retail and direct to consumer, obviously, which is common. Are there any channels you're looking to enter into
What do you mean?
from like a sales perspective? Amazon, someone else, there's various different versions. You're already in Whole Foods, it sounds like. Any big box retailer or something like that?
So we're in most of them, Sprouts, Amazon, Whole Foods. It's really building it, doing it well. When we launched in Target, we really we focused on it. Now we're going to be expanding more into some, a few really, really big accounts, which I unfortunately can't announce at the moment, but it's just all about going mass. To me, it's just about accessibility.
Yeah.
I don't want people to have to be like, can I buy it this month? I want it to be that oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything from a marketing perspective that maybe was especially impactful for the business that's somewhat unique or that you're focused on at the moment as far as getting it out there? Yeah.
Yeah, no, for marketing, I've just always asked the team, keep it so simple. It's the real greens. You can't go wrong with
product. Yeah.
Exactly. And then the efficacy with the FDA, it's just we're the real deal. And those show that. And so we don't want to do the whole fancy, get a celebrity, just keep it clean, and the product will prevail as of now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Love that.
So what I love about everything you've shared today is that so much of your life is about and your product is about simplicity, and that really anyone can take it. And I think that it's so accessible. That's what makes it so.
To stop and realize which century you're in too.
Yeah.
In 2023, where you can drop something in your water and just drink it, or chew a gummy and that will do a lot of the work. This is so beyond what was even available a couple decades ago.
So my last question, is kind of twofold. One, what, if any other things do you do to take care of yourself? Mm-hmm. And is there anything else that you want our audience to take away from this conversation today?
Wow. Okay. Great questions. So as I was saying, given that, my focus is really my family and work, that even making myself go play tennis every Monday morning, it felt like I just can't do that now. I actually realized that hour sets me up so nicely for the week. It gets me out of my brain, and then all of a sudden as you're going home, a kind of an answer will trickle in. And I have found that hour of stepping out in whatever way it is for you so important. Mm-hmm. And that's really, it's been huge to me. And then really, this again, I sound so Oprah, but I just want people to trust themselves more. I feel like everything's coming at them as we've really been talking this whole time. It's so inundated. Just trust yourself with whatever, I feel like that's just really what works.
Both very fantastic answers. And when you tie what you just said back to your a way of taking care of yourself, it's logically you're oh, I don't have time for that. I don't have but intuitively you're no, this is right. I have to have the space so that I can serve my kids, my husband, my business in a better way.
You'll show up better for everything else.
Right. And that you only know that by actually tuning into your intuition. So I love how that kind of put a bubble.
The worst thing you can skimp out on.
Totally.
It took me a long time to realize that. It takes a lot of people a long time to realize that.
Yeah. Well, you're doing it in the morning, which is great.
Yeah.
Starting there.
Yeah.
So with all of that said, where can we find you on social media? Tell us about the website, talk to us about, if there is a certain one of your products, whether it's the gummy or the tablet, where should people start if they want to start taking 8 Greens?
Well, please go to 8greens.com or everyone, Amazon, Target. Yeah. Whole Foods. I don't want to leave anyone out. The tablet you've seen, I am obsessed with blood orange. If you will like a stronger flavor, blood orange is amazing. And then I have to say this peach, the gummies. So Oprah put them on her favorite list last Christmas.
Congratulations.
It was amazing. Thank you. But they just like exploded. So we thought it was the Oprah explosion, but they have now carried on. So I know it's the real, it's the peach. The flavor is so amazing. So I would say try a gummy and a daily tablet. And there's a variety pack, which is great because then you can do the different flavors.
I love that. That's where everybody should start. So we'll link that page in our show notes.
Shopify site. I worked for Shopify for 4 years, so it's a great.
I know.
Site.
You don't do it now.
Similar company, similar space, I should say. But
okay.
Yeah, it's a beautiful Shopify site. So congratulations on that.
I try to stay out of all of that. Shopify, the website, like that is not my strength, my friends. Talk about not your strengths. That is not my strength.
Just the creative's so good.
Yeah, it's very simple and like it's great. We will link the 8 Greens social media. Do you have a public social media or are you private?
So I'm public, but don't follow me because I'm so boring. I like do my kids. I forget. Like everyone's like, wait, you did what last week? You didn't post it? I forget. I'm a mess. Just do 8 Greens.
Okay. You got
Understood.
it. You got it. This has been such a fantastic conversation, Dawn.
Oh, I'm so impressed with you two to do it. Husband, wife with 2 little kids. Whoo la la. Wow.
A lot.
We like it. We enjoy it a lot. This is like a point of connection for us in the day. And so,
yeah, this is like you kind of meditation or, probably the best way to describe it, but it's very stimulating for us as a marriage and all that. So, we have to do it.
We do. And we've really enjoyed.
You're a great dude. You're good with listening and talking. You're very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And seriously, you have so much knowledge and the passion that you have for your business based on, what you went through and like how, laser focused you are on like creating a product that is really going to help people, whether it's with like the mental of like that next small step or the physical that these greens help. Like it's just so incredible to see somebody who has so much passion and like really is all about getting this into the hands of people who need it. So thank you for sharing all of it with us today. We so enjoyed it and we would love to have you back for another one in the future. If you ever got other, products coming out or whatever, we would love it.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Well, thank both. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. What time is it over there?
It's what time? It's like 7 now. Yeah, it's 7:06.
Well, enjoy.
If you can believe it, my son just came home from school. My apple pie. Thank you so much. And my older son.
Enjoy that.
Oh, we'll talk to you both. Enjoy this period. I know it's so mad, but you're doing it. Proud of you.
We're gonna get through it. We want 2 more, so we're really crazy.
She wants 2 more. I want 1 more, but yeah, we want 2 more.
Wow.
I digress.
Oh my God. Okay. I can't believe you've got 3 and 1 and you want 2 more. I mean, that's bravery at its finest.
My wife, when she sets her mind to something, is not much that can derail it. So she's a good entrepreneur in every way.
Oh, I love it. My type of person.
Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you guys.
We really hope that you enjoyed that episode. You can follow me on Instagram at Wellness by Kelly. And if you're new around here, you can sign up for the WBK 7-day free trial where you can get access to all of my low impact workouts, blood sugar balancing, plant-based recipes, and guided meditations, all available on wellnessbykelly.com and on the WBK app.
Hey, thanks for listening.
Please make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also connect with us on social media at Wellness by Kelly. Drop us a DM for who you want to hear from.